How are you guys doing? Today is Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review yesterday's Elite matchups and performances from Monday, February 28th. And as we get into the third month of the 2022 calendar year, I'm going to take a quick step back and take a look at where we are before I review yesterday's Elite matchups and performances. When it comes to college basketball, we are towards the end of that season. The NBA season is coming towards the end of its season as well. Now that the All-Star weekend is over, NBA teams are starting to sort themselves out as they prep for the playoffs. Not to mention that overseas with soccer, we are, of course, getting ready to enter another weekend, or at least another a break week in Champions League play. But there's still a good amount of soccer going on as we go through the world of sports day by day. With that said, starting with the third-ranked college basketball team in the nation, the Baylor Bears would face off against the 21st-ranked Texas Longhorns in Austin. Baylor beat Texas 68-61. They won by 7 after outscoring Texas by 10 points in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the 21st-ranked Texas Longhorns were led in scoring by their starting forward, Christian Bishop, and their starting forward, Marcus Carr. Bishop finished with 13 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 blocks in 33 minutes. He shot 6 for 9 from the field. Carr would finish with 13 points, and he would do all this while shooting 5 for 12 from the field. He shot 3 for 8 from 3. On the winning end of this matchup, the third-ranked defending champs Baylor Bears were led in scoring by their starting guard Adam Flagler and their other starting guard James Akinjo. Flagler finished with 19 points. He shot 7 for 14 from the field and 5 for 7 from 3. James Akinjo finished with 19 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals in 38 minutes. He shot 6 for 14 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and 5 for 6 from the foul line. With this win, the third-ranked Baylor Bears are now 25-5. They are 13-4 in the Big 12. That is the second-best record in the conference, as they only sit behind Kansas. With this loss, the 21st-ranked Texas Longhorns are now 21-9. They are 10-7 in the Big 12. That is the fourth-best record in the Big 12. They sit behind Kansas, Baylor, and Texas Tech at the moment as the season's coming to a close. Looking at the 12th-ranked team in the nation and staying within the Big 12 and even within Texas, the Texas Tech Red Raiders hosted the unranked Kansas State Wildcats. Texas Tech beat Kansas State 73-68. They won by 5 after outscoring Kansas State by 8 in the first half. On the winning end of this matchup, the 12th-ranked Red Raiders were led in scoring by their starting guard, Davion Warren. He would go on to finish with 23 points and 4 steals. He shot 9 for 11 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and he shot 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the 12th-ranked Texas Tech Red Raiders are 23-7. They are 12-5 in the Big 12. That is the third-best record in the conference, as they are sitting behind Kansas and Baylor at the moment. With this loss, the unranked Kansas State Wildcats are 14-15. They are now 6-11 in the conference. They are holding the third-worst record in the Big 12 at the moment. Looking at the 17th-ranked team in the nation, the UCLA Bruins would face off against the unranked Washington Huskies. And in this game that would take place in Seattle, UCLA would end up beating Washington 77-66. They won this matchup by 11 after outscoring Washington by 15 in the second half. UCLA, on the winning end, was led in scoring by their starting guard, Jaime Jaquez Jr. He finished with 30 points and 9 rebounds. He shot 11 for 17 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3 as well, and he would shoot 7 for 10 from the foul line. With this win, the 17th-ranked UCLA Bruins are 22-6. They are now 14-5 in the Pac-12. That is the third-best record in the conference, as they sit behind Arizona and USC. With this loss, loss, the unranked Washington Huskies are now 14-14. They are now 9-9 in the Pac-12 as they're sitting 500 in and outside of their conference. Last but not least, looking at the 24th ranked team in the nation, the lowest ranked basketball team to play, was able to pull off a win. The 24th ranked Iowa Hawkeyes hosted the unranked Northwestern Wildcats. Iowa beat Northwestern 82-61. They won this matchup by 21 after they outscored Northwestern by 19 in the first half, more than doubling Northwestern's output. On the winning end of this matchup, the 24th ranked Iowa Hawkeyes were led in scoring by their starting forward, Keegan Murray. He finished with 26 points, 18 rebounds, and 2 steals, as well as 2 blocks. All of this in 31 minutes as he shot 9 for 16 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and he shot 6 for 8 from the foul line. With this win, the 24th ranked Iowa Hawkeyes are 21-8. They are 11-7 in the Big Ten. That is the 5th best record in the conference. They sit behind Wisconsin, Purdue, Illinois, and Ohio State. With this loss, the unranked Northwestern Wildcats are 13-15. They are 6-13 in the Big Ten. That is the 3rd worst record in the conference as they sit above Minnesota and Nebraska. So that is what college basketball is looking like following yesterday's matchups. Transitioning into what's going on today, as of course, like I said, with the context of teams going towards the end games of their conference schedules. Starting at 6:30 on FS1, this is going to be a big ranked matchup as the 11th ranked Villanova Wildcats are going to host the 9th ranked Providence Friars in Pennsylvania. Hometown Villanova enters this matchup with a 14-4 record in the Big East. Providence is 14-2 in the Big East going in. At the same time at 6:30 on SEC Network, the 13th ranked Tennessee Volunteers are going to go to Athens to face off against unranked Georgia. Tennessee enters this matchup with a 12-4 record. Georgia is 1-15. At least their basketball team is. Not like the same year that their football team would go on to win the national championship, by the way. But just to get a sense of what Tennessee is walking into. At 7 o'clock on ESPN, the 7th ranked Kentucky Wildcats are going to host unranked Ole Miss in Rupp Arena. Kentucky enters this matchup with a 12-4 record in the SEC. At 7 o'clock at the same time on Big Ten Network, the 23rd ranked Ohio State Buckeyes are going to host the unranked Nebraska Cornhuskers in Value Center Arena. Ohio State enters this matchup with an 11-6 record in the Big Ten. Nebraska is 2-16 in the Big Ten. That is the worst record in the conference, just, of course, for context. At 8 o'clock on ACC Network, the ACC's lone ranked team, the 4th ranked Duke Blue Devils, my alma mater, are going to Pittsburgh to face off against the unranked Panthers. Duke enters this matchup with a 15-3 record in the ACC. At 8 o'clock on the Big 12 Network, 6th ranked Kansas is going to go to Fort Worth to face off against unranked TCU. Kansas enters his matchup with a 12-3 record in the Big 12. At 9 o'clock on ESPN, the 10th ranked Wisconsin Badgers are going to host the 8th ranked Purdue Boilermakers in yet another ranked matchup, this being the lone matchup within the top 10. And this is going to be in the Kohl Center in Madison, Wisconsin. The hometown Badgers are going to enter this matchup with a 14-4 record in the Big Ten. And 8th ranked Purdue enters this matchup with a 13-5 record in the Big Ten. At the same time, at 9 o'clock on ESPNU, the 14th ranked Houston Cougars are going to host the unranked Cincinnati Bearcats in the Fertitta Center. Houston enters this matchup with a 3-2 record in the American Conference. And then at 11 on ESPN, the 16th ranked USC Trojans are going to host the 2nd ranked Arizona Wildcats in the Galen Center in LA. USC enters this matchup with a 14-4 record in the Pac-12. Arizona enters this matchup with a 15-2 record. So a lot of college basketball is going to be played. Taking a look at what's going on at the professional level, jumping in the NBA, starting off in Cleveland, looking at the last games of February, the Cavaliers hosted the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves beat the Cavaliers to end their February. Timberwolves won this game 127-122. They won by 5 after they outscored the Cavaliers by 14 in the second quarter and by 10 in the third. So after outscoring the Cavs by a combined 24 in the middle two quarters, they pulled off their 33rd win of the season. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Cleveland Cavaliers were led in scoring by their power forward off the bench, their former champ Kevin Love. He finished with 26 points and 5 rebounds in 26 minutes. He shot 7 for 14 from the field, 5 for 10 from 3, and a perfect 7 for 7 from the foul line. Their all-star starting center out of Texas, Jared Allen, finished with 21 points and 8 rebounds in 34 minutes. Allen would shoot 9 for 10 from the field and 3 for 4 from the foul line. Their small forward off the bench out of Turkey, Cedi Osman, finished with 21 points and 5 assists in 28 minutes. He shot 5 for 9 from the field. All of his attempts were from 3. He was 5 for 9 from 3. And he would go on to shoot 6 for 8 from the foul line as well. The Cavaliers starting guard, Brandon Goodwin, finished with 17 points, 12 assists, and 2 steals, all in 35 minutes. He shot 7 for 13 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and he made his only free throw attempt on the day. And in addition to him, their starting center, their rookie out of USC, Evan Mobley, finished with 15 points and 10 rebounds, as well as 2 blocks in 34 minutes. He shot 6 for 12 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Minnesota Timberwolves would be led in scoring by their starting point guard out of Ohio State, D'Angelo Russell. Russell finished with 25 points in 35 minutes. He shot 8 for 17 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and 5 for 6 from the foul line. Their elite starting center, Karl Anthony Towns, finished with 17 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists as well in 34 minutes. He shot 7 for 13 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their elite starting small forward, Anthony Edwards, finished with 17 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 steals in 32 minutes. He shot 7 for 13 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Minnesota Timberwolves are 33-29. That is the 7th best record in the Western Conference. They've won 6 of their last 10 games. They sit 3.5 games behind the Dallas Mavericks and the Denver Nuggets, who are in a 2-way tie for the 5th seed in the East. They are also sitting a game and a half ahead of the 8th seed Los Angeles Clippers at the moment. They trail the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns by 16.5 games at the moment. With this loss, the Cleveland Cavaliers are 36-25. That is currently the 5th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost 5 of their last 10 games. They sit half a game behind the defending champs and 4-seed Milwaukee Bucks for the time being, and they sit a game ahead of the 6-seed Boston Celtics. They sit 4.5 games behind the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat. Jumping out to Orlando, the Magic hosted the Indiana Pacers. In this matchup, the Magic beat the Pacers 119-103. The Magic won this matchup by 16 after they outscored the Pacers by 16 in the third quarter. Every other quarter, they all kind of evened up because that's how math works. On the losing end of this matchup, the Indiana Pacers were led in scoring by their new starting point guard, Tyrese Halliburton. He finished with 23 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, and 6 turnovers in 33 minutes. He shot 7 for 13 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and he shot a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Orlando Magic would be led in scoring by their starting center out of Duke, and my former classmate, Wendell Carter Jr. He would go on to finish with 21 points and 12 rebounds in 28 minutes. He shot 8 for 10 from the field. He would go on to make his only three-pointer of the day, and he shot 4 for 6 from the foul line. Their starting center out of Texas, Mo Bamba, finished with 15 points and 10 rebounds in 30 minutes. He shot 6 for 15 from the field and made both of his free throws. Their starting shooting guard, their rookie out of Gonzaga, Jalen Suggs, finished with 14 points, 10 assists, and 2 steals in 27 minutes. He shot 5 for 9 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and he shot 2 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Orlando Magic are 15-47. That is the worst record in the Eastern Conference, and that is currently the worst record in the NBA. They are one of 3 teams with 15 wins, but they have the most losses out of all of them. The Magic Magic have actually won their last 2 games, and they've won 4 of their last 10. They are trailing the 10 seed Charlotte Hornets by 14.5 games in the Eastern Conference at the time, for the time being. With this loss, the Indiana Pacers are 21-42. That is the 3rd worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost 8 of their last 10 games. They are sitting 9 games behind the 10 seed Charlotte Hornets out east. Taking a look now at what happened in Brooklyn, the Nets hosted the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors beat the Nets 133-97. The Raptors won this game by 36 after they outscored the Nets by 15 in the first quarter, 8 in the second, so that's 23 in the first half. They were going to outscore the Nets by 13 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Brooklyn Nets would be led in scoring by their center off the bench, LaMarcus Aldridge, former number 2 overall pick out of Texas. He would go on to finish with 15 points in 20 minutes. He shot 5 for 8 from the field and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Toronto Raptors will be led in scoring by their starting small forward, their rookie out of Florida State, Scotty Barnes. He finished with 28 points, 16 rebounds, and 5 steals, as well as 5 turnovers in 34 minutes. He shot 12 for 14 from the field. He made his only 3-pointer of the day, and he shot 3 for 4 from the foul line. Their power forward off the bench, Precious Achiuwa, finished with 20 points and 8 rebounds in 24 minutes. He shot 8 for 14 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and he would shoot 1 for 3 from the foul line. With this win, the Toronto Raptors are now 33-27. That is the 7th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won 6 of their last 10 games. They sit a game and a half behind the 6 seed Boston Celtics, and they sit 2 games ahead of the 8 seed Brooklyn Nets for the time being. They are sitting 7 games behind before the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat right now. And with this loss, the Brooklyn Nets are 32-30. That is the 8th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost 7 of their last 10 games. They sit 2 games behind the 7th place Toronto Raptors. They sit 2 games behind the 9th place Atlanta Hawks as they trail the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat by 9 games at the moment. Jumping to Miami, speaking of the Heat were able to extend their lead ahead of the 2nd place Bulls in the East as the Heat beat the Bulls 112-99. The Heat won this matchup by 13 after they outscored the Bulls by 15 in the 3rd quarter. Not to mention they also outscored the Bulls by 9 in the 1st quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Chicago Bulls will be led in scoring by their all-star starting shooting guard out of UCLA, Zach LaVine. He finished with 22 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists in 33 minutes. He shot 8 for 16 from the field, 2 for 8 from 3, and 4 for 6 from the foul line. Their all-star starting small forward out of USC, DeMar DeRozan, finished with 18 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 steals in 34 minutes. He shot 7 for 16 from the field and 4 for 5 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Miami Heat would be led in scoring by their starting point guard, Gabe Vincent. They would also be led in scoring by their guard off the bench out of Kentucky, Tyler Hero. Vincent finished with 20 points in 33 minutes. He shot 7 for 13 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and 2 for 3 from the foul line. Hero finished with 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists in 30 minutes. He shot 7 for 13 from the field and a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. Their elite starting small forward, Jimmy Butler, finished with 15 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 steals in 29 minutes. He shot 4 for 13 from the field and 7 for 10 from the foul line. With this win, the Miami Heat are 41-21. That is the best record in the Eastern Conference, and that is currently the 4th best record in the NBA, as they have officially clinched not getting a losing record this year, which is, of course, a big accomplishment. They've now won their last 4 games. That is the longest active winning streak in the Eastern Conference. They have the 2nd longest active winning streak in the NBA behind the Denver Nuggets. The Heat are sitting 2 games ahead of the second-place Chicago Bulls now that the Bulls lost this game. With this loss, the Bulls are 39-23. That is the second-best record in the East, if I didn't say that 5 times just in the last 30 seconds. They've lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 4 of their last 10. They sit 2 games behind the first seed Miami Heat, as they are also sitting 1 game ahead of the 3rd seed Philadelphia 76ers to get a glimpse of how close this Eastern Conference race is. Jumping out to Memphis, the Grizzlies hosted the San Antonio Spurs. The Memphis Grizzlies beat the San Antonio Spurs 118-105. They were able to win by 13 after outscoring the Spurs by 10 in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Spurs would be led in scoring by their shooting guard off the bench, Lonnie Walker IV. He finished with 22 points in 25 minutes. He shot 9 for 18 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their all-star starting point guard, DeJounte Murray, would finish with 21 points, 3 rebounds, 8 assists, and 3 steals in 35 minutes. He shot 8 for 20 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3, and 4 for 5 from the foul line. Their starting center, Jakob Poeltl, finished with 16 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 steals in 32 minutes. He shot 8 for 11 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Memphis Grizzlies would be led in scoring by their elite starting point guard, Ja Morant. Their first-time All-Star would finish with 52 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists in 34 minutes. He shot 22 for 30 from the field. He shot a perfect 4 for 4 from 3, and he shot 4 for 7 from the foul line. He would be the only player that would really be balling out for the. I don't want to say the only player, but with this win, the Memphis Grizzlies would go on to win their 43rd win. They are now 43-20. That is the 3rd best record in the Western Conference, and that's the 3rd best record in the NBA for that matter. They've won their last 2 games, and they've won 8 of their last 10. They currently sit a full game behind the 2nd seed Golden State Warriors, as they sit 3.5 games ahead of the 4th seed Utah Jazz. They trail the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns by 7 games. With this loss, the San Antonio Spurs are 24-38. That is the 4th worst record in the Western Conference. They've lost their last 2 games. They've lost 5 of their last 10. They sit a game and a half behind the Pelicans and the Trailblazers, who are tied for the 10th best record in the Western Conference. Jumping out to Milwaukee, the defending champs, Milwaukee Bucks, hosted the Charlotte Hornets. The Bucks beat the Hornets 130-106. The Bucks won this matchup by 24 after they outscored the Hornets by 23 in the second quarter alone, not to mention by 9 in the third. They were going to outscore the Hornets by 32 points in the middle 2 quarters. On the losing end of this matchup, the Charlotte Hornets would be led in scoring by their elite starting point guard, LaMelo Ball. He finished with 24 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists in 30 minutes. He shot 9 for 18 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Milwaukee Bucks would be led in scoring by their elite starting power forward, the reigning NBA Finals MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo. He finished with 26 points, 16 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and 4 blocks in 28 minutes. He shot 6 for 10 from the field and a perfect 14 for 14 from the foul line. Their starting point guard, Drew Holiday, would finish with 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists in 25 minutes. He shot 7 for 15 from the field, 5 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their starting center, Bobby Portis, would finish with 20 points and 10 rebounds in 23 minutes. He shot 7 for 14 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and he would shoot a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Milwaukee Bucks are now 36-25. That is the 4th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've now won 6 of their last 10 games, and they are sitting a game behind the 3rd seed Philadelphia 76ers. They also sit half a game ahead of the Cleveland Cavaliers for the time being. And then, of course, with this loss, the Charlotte Hornets are now 30-32. That is the 10th best record in the Eastern Conference, or they're now 30-33. With this loss, they are now holding the 10th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost their last 2 games. They've lost 8 of their last 10. They sit half a game behind the 9 seed Atlanta Hawks in the Eastern Conference play-in picture, as they also sit a game and a half ahead of the 11 seed Washington Wizards, who are the first team on the outside looking in. Overall, the Hornets trail the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat by 11.5 games in the conference. Jumping out to Oklahoma City, the Thunder hosted the Sacramento Kings. The Kings beat the Thunder 131-110. They won by 21 points after outscoring the Thunder by 19 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Kings outscored the Thunder by 21 in the second half after it was virtually tied in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the hometown team, would be led in scoring by their starting point guard out of Kentucky, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He finished with 37 points, 7 rebounds, 10 assists, 3 steals, and 5 turnovers in 33 minutes. He shot 12 for 16 from the field, a perfect 3 for 3 from 3, and he shot 10 for 14 from the foul line. And then, of course, on the winning end of this matchup, the Sacramento Kings would be led in scoring by their starting point guard out of Kentucky, De'Aaron Fox. He finished with 29 points, 4 rebounds, 10 assists, and 2 steals in 41 minutes. He shot 10 for 20 from the field, and he would shoot 8 for 14 from the foul line. Their starting power forward, Trey Lyles, finished with 24 points and 6 rebounds in 31 minutes. He shot 10 for 14 from the field and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, Harrison Barnes, out of North Carolina, finished with 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 steals. He did all this in 34 minutes. He shot 6 for 12 from the field, and he would shoot 10 for 11 from the foul line. Their starting power forward out of Gonzaga, Domantas Sabonis, finished with 14 points, 16 rebounds, and 7 assists, alongside 8 turnovers in 31 minutes. He shot 7 for 8 from the field on the day. With this win, the Sacramento Kings are now 23-40. That is the third worst record in the Western Conference. They've won 4 of their last 10 games. They are now sitting 3 games behind the Pelicans and the Trailblazers, who are tied for the 10th best record in the West. And then with this loss, the Oklahoma City Thunder are now 19-42. That is the second worst record in the Western Conference. They've lost 8 of their last 10 games. They are currently sitting 6 games behind the two-way tie of the Pelicans and the Trailblazers in 10th place in the West. That is what the NBA is looking like following yesterday's games, and looking at the very first games of March as we jump through one day at a time. Starting at 7, or I guess looking at the first primetime game at 7:30 on TNT, the Boston Celtics, who are currently holding the 6th best record in the East, are going to host the Atlanta Hawks, who come into this matchup holding the 9th best record in the East. The Celtics have won 8 of their last 10 games, and they sit 5.5 games behind the first place Heat. The Atlanta Hawks have won 5 of their last 10 games, and they are currently sitting 5.5 games behind the Boston Celtics themselves. And then looking at the other game that's going to be right after them, the Los Angeles Lakers, who are currently holding the 9th best record in the West, are going to host the Dallas Mavericks, who are holding the 5th best record in the West. This matchup is going to be on TNT. It's going to be in the Crypto.com arena. The Lakers have lost their last 2 games. They've lost 7 of their last 10, as they are currently trailing the Dallas Mavericks by exactly 8.5 games. And then the Dallas Mavericks are holding the 5th best record in the West, as they've won 7 of their last 10. They now trail the Suns by 13 games in the entire West. Looking at the games that aren't on prime time, the Washington Wizards are going to host the Detroit Pistons in the Capital One Arena. At 7:30, the Toronto Raptors are going to host the Brooklyn Nets in the Scotiabank Arena. Both these teams in playoff contention. At 8 o'clock, the Houston Rockets are going to host the LA Clippers. At 8 o'clock at the same time, the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to host the Golden State Warriors, as both these teams could possibly be a playoff matchup in the very first round. But that is what the NBA is looking like as we navigate through this league one day at a time. Looking to what's going on with soccer, Italian Serie A would see Atalanta beat Sampdoria 4-1. As with this win, Atalanta is now sitting 5th in the Serie A table as they still get to move a little bit closer. They were able to see a brace from Toyn Coat Miners. But that's really the big game from yesterday. Taking a look at what's going on today. Today it was, it's mainly domestic cups. Starting off with England's, Manchester City is going to face off against Peterborough United in the 5th round of the English FA Cup, which is a completely different tournament than the Carabao Cup, in which Liverpool won on penalties just the other day. And then in this same round, Tottenham Hotspur is going to face off against Middlesbrough. In the Italian Coppa Italia, in the first leg of the semifinal round, AC Milan is going to host Inter, as this is going to be a Milan derby for the Italian Cup for the ages, and that's going to be kicked off today. So that is actually going to be the game that many people are going to be putting their eyes on. But that is the story as we go into today, and I want to thank everyone for following along with me as we navigate through it one day at a time. I want to thank the ESPN, the NCAA, the NBA, and FIFA websites for giving me all the facts and figures, for getting me through this episode. I wouldn't be able to do this without them. And of course, I actually have 3 individual profiles to do right after this, as I got a good amount to do. But with that said, I want to thank everyone once again for listening, and I can't wait to get through March. Hopefully by the end of March, definitely by the end of April, my audios and my visuals should hopefully be caught up. But if not, I apologize. But I'll eventually get it caught up one day. And eventually, and probably more than likely by the time you hear this, it'll be way past that point. You won't even notice. Thanks once again for listening. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with more tomorrow. Peace out.